شرح الله صدورا بالهداية بعد كفر وانحراف وغوايا. شرح الله صدورا بالهداية بعد كفر وانحراف وغوايا. وأضاء الله بالوحي قلوبا من حديث جاء بالحق
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ذم قسوة القلب.
Condemnation of hardness of the heart. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of all creation, and may His peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, His family, and all His companions. What follows is a concise summary of a classical treatise concerning one of the most perilous spiritual ailments that can befall a believer, the hardness of the heart, Qaswat al-Qalb. The original work was authored by a luminary of Islamic scholarship, a master of prophetic tradition and spiritual insight, whose life and works were dedicated to reviving the understanding of the righteous predecessors. The author. This treatise was penned by Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, Abu al-Faraj Abd al-Ram ibn Ahmad ibn Rajab, 736 to 795 after Hijrih, 1335 to 1393 CE. He was a foremost Hanbali jurist and an eminent scholar of hadith in the 8th century Hijri. Born in Baghdad, he later resided and taught in Damascus, the city that became the heart of his scholarly legacy. Educated within the profound tradition of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and his distinguished students, including Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Imam Ibn Rajab's scholarship is marked by its deep fidelity to the Quran and the Sunnah, understood through the lens of the early Muslim community. His writings uniquely bridge the disciplines of law, hadith, and spiritual purification, offering not merely rulings for actions, but nourishment for the souls.
إن العلم والعمل شجرة والقلب أصلها.
Among his enduring contributions is the succinct yet powerful work titled Dhamm Qaswat al-Qalb, a condemnation of hardness of the heart. In it, he examines this spiritual disease with the precision of a jurist and the concern of a compassionate guide, drawing his evidence directly from divine revelation and prophetic wisdom. This summary. The present text is a brief, chapter-by-chapter overview of that essential treatise. This summary has been prepared by Mohammed Hussain from Sopore, Kashmir, with the intention of offering an accessible overview of Ibn Rajab's insights, making the core themes and lessons of the Imam's work available to the contemporary reader. It distills the profound spiritual diagnosis and remedies of the original into a clear and reflective format, serving as both an introduction and an invitation to seriously examine the condition of one's own heart in the illuminating light of eternal guidance.
اللهم لقل حجتنا وأصلح أقواتنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا.
May Allah accept this effort, soften our hearts with His remembrance, and protect us from the hardness that leads astray. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions. This introductory text precedes the complete summary of Dhamm Qaswat al-Qalb by Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. Prepared for clarity and spiritual reflection. Condemnation of the hardness of the heart. By al-Hafiz Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the beneficent. We begin with a timeless treatise that speaks directly to the core of the human condition, written by a great scholar of the 8th Islamic century, al-Hafiz Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. This is not merely a book of rulings, but a profound journey into the spiritual disease of a hardened heart, its causes, its devastating consequences, and its hopeful cures. The author begins by introducing us to the very meaning of a hard heart. In the Arabic language, the word qaswa signifies hardness in every sense, like a solid stone or barren earth that yields no growth. Scholars describe it as the loss of softness, mercy, and humility. It is a heart that remains unmoved by divine remembrance, untouched by admonition, and unresponsive to truth. Ibn al-Qayyim, whose teachings greatly influenced Ibn Rajab, beautifully contrasts this with a healthy heart. He says there are three types: the hard heart, which is like a stone, unaffected by good; the overly soft heart, which is like water, lacking strength; and the ideal heart, soft yet strong, pure yet powerful, able to recognize truth, accept it with humility, and defend it with strength. This, he says, is the heart most beloved to Allah. The primary evidence for the danger of this condition comes from the Quran itself. Allah condemns those whose hearts became hardened after witnessing clear signs, becoming like stones, or even harder. For stones, after all, may sometimes split to gush forth water or fall down in fear of Allah, while a hardened heart remains utterly inert. The people of the book were censured for this very flaw, and the believers are warned not to follow their path, lest their own hearts grow hard from turning away from Allah's reminder. But what causes a heart to transform from a vessel of light into something harder than rock? Ibn Rajab, drawing from the Quran, the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, and the wisdom of the early scholars, details the perilous path to hardness. First is excessive talk without the remembrance of Allah. The Prophet warned that too much idle chatter hardens the heart, making a person distant from Allah. Similarly, excessive laughter kills the heart, as does breaking one's covenant with Allah. The Quran explicitly links the hardening of the hearts of the children of Israel to their breach of promises. Another major cause is indulgence in sin. Each sin, the Prophet explained, places a black spot on the heart. If a person repents and seeks forgiveness, the heart is polished clean. But if sins accumulate, the blackness spreads until it covers the heart entirely. This is the covering or ran that Allah mentions in the Quran, a rust that seals the heart from guidance. Further causes include excessive eating, particularly from unlawful sources, which burdens the heart and stifles its spiritual sensitivity. The scholar Bishr ibn al-Harith succinctly said that two traits harden the heart: excessive talking and excessive eating. Accompanying the heedless and the sinful, and immersing oneself in the love of this world and positions of status, also starve the heart of the nourishment it needs, leading to spiritual drought. The result of this hardness is a life of misery. The Prophet indicated that dryness of the eyes, an inability to cry from the fear of Allah, hardness of the heart, having unrealistic hopes, and an insatiable desire for worldly life are all indicators of wretchedness. A hard heart is the most severe punishment for a believer, as it cuts off the very source of spiritual life and connection to the divine. Yet, this treatise is a message of hope, not despair. For every cause of hardness, Ibn Rajab provides a cure, a way to soften the heart and restore its vitality. The remedies are numerous and profoundly beautiful. The foremost cure is the frequent remembrance of Allah, involving both the tongue and the heart. The Quran states unequivocally that hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah. Reciting the Quran with contemplation is the most powerful medicine. When the verses of Allah are recited to the believers, their skins shiver, and then their skins and their hearts soften to the remembrance. This is the definitive proof that the Quran has the power to melt away hardness. Second is showing kindness and benevolence to the weak and needy, the orphans and the poor. A beautiful narration tells of a man who complained to the Prophet about the hardness of his heart. The Prophet advised him, if you love for your heart to become soft, then rub the head of the orphan and feed the poor. Showing mercy to those in need unlocks divine mercy within one's own soul, replacing harshness with compassion. Third is the frequent remembrance of death. The righteous predecessor Aisha advised a woman complaining of a hard heart to often think of death, promising it would soften her heart and help her attain her needs. Visiting graves, not in a morbid way, but to reflect on the inevitable end and the reality of the hereafter, is a powerful softener. It reminds us of the temporality of this world and the permanence of what comes next, pulling our hearts away from worldly distractions. Fourth is contemplating the ruins of past nations and the dwellings of those destroyed by Allah for their disobedience. Scholars like Abdullah ibn Umar would visit such places, call out to their absent inhabitants, and reflect on the verse, "Everything will perish save his face." This practice jolts the heart out of its complacency and reminds it of the ultimate justice and reality of divine power. Fifth, and fundamentally, is consuming only lawful sustenance. The great Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, when asked what softens the heart, simply said, eating that which is lawful. This was considered by other scholars to be the very foundation of the matter. Lawful provision purifies the soul and prepares it to receive guidance, while unlawful consumption poisons the spiritual bloodstream of the heart. Throughout the treatise, Ibn Rajab weaves in his own scholarly tradition, being a staunch follower of the way of the Salaf, the early pious predecessors. He warns against the distortions of those who acquire knowledge not for action but for argumentation, twisting the meanings of texts and abandoning portions of the message, a trait that leads directly to hardness. True knowledge, he insists, must lead to humility, action, and a softening of the heart. In appended sections, later scholars like Ibn Baz summarize the causes and cures succinctly. Hardness comes from sins, heedlessness, and keeping bad company. Softness comes from obedience to Allah, keeping the company of the righteous, and preserving one's time with dhikr, Quran, and seeking forgiveness. The book closes with a poignant reminder of the Prophet's own supplication, where he sought refuge in Allah from the hardness of the heart. This alone underscores the gravity of the ailment and the necessity for the believer to be vigilant against it. In essence, Condemnation of the Hardness of the Heart is a masterful guide. It diagnoses a spiritual malady that creeps in silently through our daily actions and neglects. It warns us with divine verses and prophetic sayings. And finally, it prescribes a treatment plan rooted in devotion, mercy, mindfulness of eternity, and purity of life. It teaches that the heart is not meant to be a fortress of stone, but a garden, soft to receive the rain of mercy, strong to uphold the tree of faith, and pure enough to reflect the light of divine truth.
الله صدورا بالهداية بعد كفر وانحراف وغوايا شرح الله صدورا بالهداية